The day Elias Kane moved next door, our sleepy suburb turned into a whisper-filled war zone. Every neighbor's eye sharp with fear, warning me to steer clear of the man with a prison past. They called him a monster, a danger to kids like me. But I was 12 and too curious to obey blindly. I noticed his quiet garden, the porch light that glowed only when I walked home, the way he vanished when children laughed nearby. Then, one heart-pounding night behind the gas station, when bullies had me pinned and fear choked my voice, Elias emerged from the shadows, his calm presence scattering them like leaves in a storm. That was the moment I knew. The man everyone feared might just be the hero we'd all misjudged, and my quest to uncover his truth would unravel a darkness far closer to home. The unsuspected Harry was 12 when Elias Kane moved in next door. The neighborhood buzzed like a kicked hornet's nest within hours. "That's the guy from the news," Mrs. Larson hissed, clutching her necklace like it could ward off evil. "The one who went to prison." MOM grabbed my arm that first evening as I headed out to ride my bike, her nails digging in hard enough to leave crescent-shaped marks. "Stay away from that house, Mio," she said, her voice sharp with a fear I'd never heard before. "That man is dangerous. He hurt children." I wanted to ask how she knew, what he'd done, why someone dangerous would be allowed to live here, but her eyes, wide and unyielding, silenced me. This wasn't up for debate. From my bedroom window, I watched him. Elias kept to himself, tending a garden that was almost too beautiful for our cookie-cutter street rows of tomatoes, sunflowers, and herbs, each labeled with neat, handwritten tags. He never looked up, never waved when kids zipped by on bikes. The moment children appeared, parents would call them inside, their voices slicing through the air. The mailman tossed packages from the sidewalk, avoiding Elias's driveway like it was cursed. Mrs. Larson started a phone tree, alerting parents whenever Elias left his house. "He's headed toward the park," she'd whisper, like he was stalking prey. "Keep the kids inside." The homeowners association held an emergency meeting. I wasn't supposed to know, but I overheard MOM on the phone with Mrs. Kim. "We've contacted a lawyer," MOM said, her voice low and tight. "There has to be a way to get him out," but there wasn't. Elias had served his time, whatever it was for. He had every right to live here, even next to families with kids. Still, I noticed things others didn't, like how Elias's porch light flicked on every weekday at 4:15 p.m., right when I got home from school, and clicked of the moment I reached our driveway. Or how he'd appear to water his plants whenever the Carter boys Jake and his goons tailed me home, only for them to suddenly take another route. His curtains twitched when I passed, not in a creepy way, but like a hawk scanning for danger. I started tracking his routine in a notebook, like a detective in one of my library books. Every morning at 7:30, he'd leave for his night shift at the warehouse, wearing a faded blue uniform with Elias stitched on the pocket. His beat-up Ford rattled down the street. Returning at 6 o'clock or on weekends, he'd garden, but the second kids appeared, he'd vanish inside. If a ball rolled into his yard, he'd toss it back over the fence without showing his face. When Girl Scouts knocked, he'd leave an envelope with cash and a note, "Keep the change." He was a ghost, trying not to exist. Mrs. Larson's safety patrols documented his every move when he left, what he carried, who visited no one. "We need evidence," she declared at another meeting, "in case something happens." But Elias gave them nothing. No loud music, no visitors, no lingering outside. If he was a predator, he was the quietest, most invisible one I'd ever imagined. One October evening, I stayed late at the library, lost in a stack of mystery novels. Walking home, I took the shortcut behind the gas station at a move I knew, but I was tired. That's when Jake Carter and his cronies, Tyler and Brett, cornered me against the grimy brick wall. Well, Jake sneered, shoving me so hard my backpack slid off. Little bookworms all alone. Jake, a 7th grader who towered over me, had a mean streak that made my stomach twist. His friends laughed as they dumped my books onto the pavement, tearing my math homework to shreds. My water bottle rolled into a reeking gutter. "Please," I said, voice cracking. "Just leave me alone." "Ah, gonna cry?" Jake mocked, pinning me against the wall. The brick scraped my jacket, tearing a hole. Tyler pulled out his phone, recording. "This'll go viral," he snickered. "Loser Carter gets what she deserves." I squeezed my eyes shut, heart pounding, wishing I called MOM for a ride. Then, like a shadow moving through fog, Elias appeared. He didn't shout or charge. He just stepped out from behind the dumpster, calm as if he'd been expecting this problem here. His voice was low, steady, but it sent a chill through me. Elias wasn't tall or bulky, just average, with a lean frame, but the way he stood, unblinking, made the air feel heavier. Jake's smirk vanished. His friends froze, eyes wide. "No problem, mister," Jake stammered, his tough act crumbling. "We're leaving." "Yeah," Tyler muttered, pocketing his phone. They bolted, leaving my books scattered. Elias knelt, gathering them with careful hands, his eyes heavy with a sadness that made my chest ache. He straightened my torn notebook gently, like it was something precious. "You okay?" he asked, handing me my bag. I nodded. "Throat tight. They hurt you?" I shook my head. The scrape stuck, but I was fine because of him. Good. He stood, brushing dirt off his jeans. "Get home. It's dark." "Thank you," I whispered. He nodded, no smile, and walked back toward the dumpster, shoulders hunched like he carried an invisible weight lottery home. MOM saw my torn jacket and went ballistic. "What happened? Where were you?" I told her about the library, the bullies, someone scaring them off, but not who. She dabbed antiseptic on my scrapes, muttering, "This is why you don't walk alone after dark. Dangerous people are out there." The irony hit me hard. The dangerous person had just saved me. The next day, MOM was livid. "Mrs. Kim saw you with him," she snapped, voice shaking. "I told you to stay away from that monster." "He helped me, MOM," I said. "He's scared of Jake and his friends. Don't defend him," she shouted, a tone she'd never used before. "Do you know what he did to kids before prison?" I tried to explain about the bullies, how Elias never felt threatening, how he seemed to watch out for me. But she wasn't listening. She grabbed her keys. "We're seeing Pastor Evans." The drive to church was tense, Mom's knuckles white. On the wheel, Pastor Evans, a warm man in his 60s who'd baptized me, sat us in his office, surrounded by crosses and family photos. His face was grave as he leaned forward. "Predators don't look like monsters, Mia," he said, pulling out a stranger danger pamphlet with smiling adults and kids. "They look like kind neighbors, helpful strangers. They gain your trust by helping you like scaring of bullies." He pointed to a diagram showing how predators build trust slowly, offering protection or kindness. "He's making you feel safe, so you let your guard down." MOM gripped my shoulder hard. "You report any contact immediately," she said, "before you become his next victim." I nodded, but doubt nodded me. If Elias was a predator, why did he avoid kids? I'd never seen him approach anyone. When the school bus stopped, he'd retreat inside. When parents walked by with strollers, he'd turn away. If a kid's paw landed in his yard, he'd toss it back without stepping outside. It didn't add up. I started documenting everything in my notebook, his routines, his habits. Every morning, 7:30, warehouse shift. Every evening, 6 o'clock, home. Weekends, gardening. But gone the moment kids appeared. His garden faced the bus stop, but he'd positioned himself to retreat fast. One Saturday, I tested him. I sat on our porch with a book, visible from his yard. His curtains twitched, but he didn't come out, just watched. When a strange white van cruised by slowly, he moved to another window, tracking it. When it circled back, he stepped onto his porch. The van sped off. Elias stayed, scanning the street. I told MOM about the van, but when I mentioned Elias watching it, she scoffed. "He's probably the one driving it, casing the neighborhood. That made no sense if he was the threat. Why watch himself?" I noticed more. Motion sensor lights angled to light our street. His car parked for a clear view, hedges trimmed to see our door. It felt like a security system, not a predator's lair. One afternoon, I pushed further. I took a detour through Riverside Park, where Jake and his crew hung out. MOM had banned me from going alone, but I needed answers. Sure enough, they were there, sprawled on picnic tables, cigarettes glowing. "Hey, bookworm," Jake called, flicking his cigarette at me. They circled, blocking my path. Scared, Brett grinned, his eyes mean. Tyler pulled out his phone, recording again. "Let's walk you home," he sneered. "Make sure you're safe." Panic hit. What if I was wrong about Elias? What if he wasn't watching? Then I heard footsteps. "There's my neighbor," Elias said, casual as if we'd planned to meet. "Ready to go, Mia?" Jake and his friends backed off, pretending to focus on their phones. "Ah, yeah," I stammered, heart still racing. Elias walked me to the park's edge, then stopped. "That was reckless," he said, voice low. You tested me, putting yourself in danger to see if I'd show up. How did you? I've seen people test boundaries before, he said, meeting my eyes. Don't do it again. Those boys are worse than you think. How do you know I was there? I didn't. I was heading to the store, heard your voice. He started to leave, then turned back. Next time you want answers, Mia, ask me. Don't risk yourself that night. I couldn't sleep. How had he known I was testing him? Why did he care more about my safety than my spying? The next Saturday, I found him gardening and approached the fence. You said I could ask, I said, gripping the chain link. He put down his shovel, his eyes haunted, like he'd seen too much. Why does everyone think you hurt kids? I asked. His face froze. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he sighed, long and heavy. Because I did hurt someone, he said, but not how they think, before I could ask more. Mome's voice cracked like thunder. Mia Grace Carter, get away from that fence. She stood on our porch, phone in hand, ready to dial 911. I ran inside, her tone leaving no room for argument. That evening, she sat me down, furious. She'd called Pastor Evans, who'd called the police. Talking to me could violate Elias's parole, sending him back to prison. You could gotten him arrested, she said. Worse, you could been hurt. But he didn't do anything, I argued. He just answered me. That's not the point, she snapped. You disobeyed me. You put yourself at risk. I wanted to tell her everything Elias's rescues, his watchfulness, but her fear stopped me. Promise you'll stay away, she said, gripping my shoulders. No more watching, no more questions. I promised, but his words echoed. I did hurt someone, but not how they think. Late Thursday night, I heard shouts from Elias's yard. From my window, I saw 3 men cornering him, their voices loud and angry. We know what you did. You sick freak, one yelled, shoving him. Kids aren't safe with you here. Another pushed him. We won't let a child molester live near us. Elias stumbled, but didn't fight back. I understand why you're angry, he said, voice steady. I know why you don't want me here, then leave. They spat, storming off. Elias stood there for an hour, alone, before going inside. His kitchen light stayed until dawn the next morning. A note was taped to our mailbox in neat handwriting. Check the news archives. March 15, 2018. The real story. While MOM was out on errands, I biked to the library. Mrs. River, the librarian, helped me access the newspaper archives. My hands shook as I typed the date. The headline on page 3 stopped my heart. Local man sentenced for assault unregistered. Sex offender. The article wasn't about Elias being a predator. It was about him attacking one Nathaniel Holt, his neighbor 3 years ago in another town. Elias had noticed kids leaving Holt's house upset, parents dropping them off for tutoring that left them quiet and withdrawn. When police ignored his reports, Elias confronted Holt. It turned violent, and Elias was arrested for assault. But a quote from Detective Laura Hayes changed everything. While Mr. Kane's actions were illegal, his reports likely stopped further abuse. Several children have since accused Mr. Holt, who now faces felony charges. I scrolled through more articles. Nathaniel Holt, a respected youth pastor, had abused 17 kids over a decade, using his community center and camping trips as cover. Elias had stopped him, sacrificing his freedom. Yet our neighborhood branded him the monster. I rode home, printouts in my back, guilt and anger swirling. How many times had Elias been misjudged? How long had he carried this? MOM was waiting, suspicious. Where were you? I spread the articles on the kitchen table. Her face paled as she read. Oh my God, she whispered, hands trembling. We got it all wrong. She read about Holt's crimes, the 17 victims, the years of abuse. How did we miss this? She asked, tears falling. Because everyone heard half the story, I said. The half that made Elias the villain. That evening, MOM did something unthinkable. She crossed the yard and knocked on Elias's door. I watched from the window as she handed him the articles and spoke softly. He nodded, then closed the door gently. What did you say? I asked when she returned. Eyes red. I apologized, she said. I told him I was ashamed of how we treated him. What did he say? That he understood? That he didn't. Blame us for protecting our kids. The neighborhood erupted. MOM shared the articles, but some, like Mrs. Larson, resisted. How do we know it's true? She scoffed. Pastor Evans confirmed it with contacts from Elias's old town, and even Mrs. Larson relented. Then police cars swarmed the street not for Elias, but for Dr. Samuel Pierce, who lived 2 doors down. Dr. Pierce, the child safety expert who'd moved in after Elias's release, ran tutoring programs and counseled kids from the Holt case. He'd been corresponding with Holt in prison, continuing his work. Police found horrific evidence in Pierce's house. Images, videos, records of abuse involving 12 kids, including my friend Lily, who tutored there weekly. It hit me like a punch. Elias hadn't just been avoiding kids to protect himself. He'd been watching Pierce. His garden, his lights, his routines all positioned to monitor a predator. Detective Hayes collected a manila envelope from Elias. 3 years of photos, license plates, behavioral notes, even recorded prison visits between Pierce and Holt. He's been building this case since Pierce moved in, Hayes told reporters. His evidence made this arrest possible. I approached Elias that night, ignoring Mohm's worried calls. You knew? I asked. I suspected from day one, he said, eyes wary. I reported Holt, but as a felon, no one listened. So I watched Pierce, gathered evidence, waited for proof they couldn't ignore. You did their job, Hayes said, joining us. Your documentation was airtight, Elias nodded. I had practice. The neighborhood changed. Parents who'd shunned Elias brought him pies and apologies. Mrs. Larson led an apology campaign, tearfully admitting, I've ruined your life. Elias just said, I can't fault you for protecting your grandkids. 3 months later, Elias listed his house for sale not from harassment, but because his work was done. The truth was out. The monster caught. The kids safe. Before he left me a note. Mia, thank you for seeing the truth when adults stopped looking. You noticed what they missed, asked questions they feared, and challenged easy answers. Keep questioning, especially when something feels wrong. The hardest truths make people squirm. Trust your gut. Don't let anyone silence what you see or feel. Sometimes the dangerous one is the only one saving you. Stay safe. Stay curious. Elias Pierce. Check the garden behind the sunflowers. I found a lockbox there, holding a bike lock key and a photo. Elias in military police uniform, standing with soldiers in Afghanistan, 2009. On the back, military police, protecting the vulnerable. He'd spent his life stopping predators, from war zones to our street, sacrificing everything. Pierce's house was razed, replaced by a park with a plaque, in memory of courage, for those who speak up when no one listens. I sit there sometimes, thinking of Elias, how he endured prison and exile to protect kids, how we almost missed his truth. Now, at 25, I'm a social worker in child protection, inspired by Elias. His story shapes how I work digging beyond accusations, listening to the dismissed, questioning respected figures. Courage, he taught me, isn't being fearless. It's doing right when the world punishes you, when no one believes you, when it costs everything. Last month, a letter arrived with no return address, a clipping about a child trafficking ring busted in another state, and a note. Some fights never end, but they're worth fighting. Stay safe. Keep asking. A friend. I don't know if Elias was involved, but I hope so. I hope he's still out there, watching, protecting, sacrificing. Because the world needs more like him, people who see what others miss, act when systems fail, and guard the innocent, no matter the cost. Sometimes the one you're warned about is the one you should trust.